We have a packed day of news today, so I'm particularly glad that you're with me, and I'll get right into it. We have a major story to start with today. It's really one of the biggest stories of the year. In the world of social media and online marketing, the issue of political ads and terms of service has become a really huge issue, and it relates to politics so closely. And Twitter has decided to ban all political advertising from its platform. The Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, says that advertisers are getting an unfair advantage in sending out misleading and inaccurate messages, and that Twitter is going to stop all political ads, period. This was announced on Twitter in a multi-tweet thread by Jack Dorsey, where he said, quote, "We've made the decision to stop all political advertising on Twitter globally. We believe political message reach should be earned, not bought. Of course, there are some claiming this is a form of suppression of speech, and it's not." And Jack Dorsey says this in a subsequent tweet in this thread. Quote, "A final note, this isn't about free expression. This is about paying for reach, and paying to increase the reach of political speech has significant ramifications that today's democratic infrastructure may not be prepared to handle. It's worth stepping back in order to address." Now, interestingly, he says at first they thought maybe we'll ban ads just by political candidates promoting a candidate in a particular election. But then they correctly realized that lots of what is going on that is really political advertising is PACs that may be supporting a candidate, which is sort of like one level removed from the candidate. And then you're getting to issue-based stuff that is clearly political, but wouldn't be stopped if you simply say no ads for candidates. So they're banning all of it, although we have to figure out what the implementation will be. So let's talk about that first. But then, I really want to talk about the implications and the context in which this is taking place. So implementation. This starts on November 22nd. That's about 3 weeks from now. How will they decide if an ad is political in nature? Because so many things are political to some degree. Is an ad about keeping our national parks clean from pollution and trash in the context of the climate crisis? Is that political? Who gets to decide? I don't know the answers to these questions. It's going to need to be sorted out. And I'm guessing that on some level, Twitter will come up with some rubric for determining what it is that counts as political, and there may well be some disagreement about what that is. The big thing here is that this is very clearly a shot across the bow at Facebook and at Mark Zuckerberg. You might remember, and we covered it, that Mark Zuckerberg testified before the House last week. It went really poorly for him. I played the clips of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asking him questions that he wasn't even remotely able to answer in a satisfactory way. Her mistake was interrupting his answers. I think that is not the right look. You gain nothing by interrupting Mark Zuckerberg. If anything, you bail him out from fully being able to expose that he doesn't know a lot of these answers. That's my one critique of AOC in that. But mostly it was Zuckerberg who was visibly confused, not just about what Facebook policies should be from a moral, ethical, or legal standpoint, but he even seemed confused about what Facebook policies are. And what is clear is that Facebook and Twitter are going to be taking drastically different approaches to this issue of political advertising and what is involved. Facebook is taking the ad money, and they are going to make some sort of little restrictions around the edges to try to protect some semblance of responsibility that they want to claim to have about what they will allow. Mark Zuckerberg talking about examples of, you can't target black voters. I think he said you can't target black voters or predominantly black zip codes with an ad that misstates when election day is. That would be a form of voter suppression. But the line between that and just a generally dishonest ad is a blurry line. It became very clear that it was blurry when Mark Zuckerberg testified. Twitter is doing something very different. They're cutting this off at the pass. They're saying no political ads, period. Now, Jack Dorsey doesn't mention Mark Zuckerberg specifically in his tweets, but he does say, for example, that, quote, "We have witnessed many social movements reach massive scale without any political advertising." What he is responding to is Zuckerberg saying, if we tighten our policies on this, we'll disproportionately hurt grassroots groups, will disproportionately hurt challengers in politics, and we will be propping up the status quo. That was Mark Zuckerberg's argument. Clearly, Jack Dorsey's saying he doesn't agree with that when he says, we've seen movements succeed even without paid political advertising. So I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, remember, politicians, billionaire tech CEOs, these are not heroic actors. We shouldn't idolize them. Jack Dorsey made a decision that could be the correct moral decision, but there is no question that part of it was a calculation based on the PR of it, based on the timing of last week's Facebook fiasco in front of Congress. So number one, let's not focus our interpretation on the morality of ethics or ethics of the decision, even if on the merits it is the right decision, and it may well be. Secondly, I have to tell you, I know political ads are big on Twitter. In my experience, the problem isn't so much the political ads, which I see very few of and can say I don't want to see stuff like this. I don't know if that's because of how I browse Twitter. For me, the real problem, the real battle lines are the terms of service and enforcement of those terms of service for users. For me, this has always been really the issue on Twitter. I like the decision that was made about banning political ads. That's a decision Twitter can make, and they can say, we're just not going to have that on our platform. Our platform will not allow political issues or candidates to buy influence. They're going to have to earn it. But what about high-profile people who are allowed to completely flout the terms of service? For example, like Donald Trump himself. What about the totally soft way in which Twitter has dealt with criticism about the political nature of its terms of service from both left and right, sometimes rightly, sometimes in a completely ridiculous way, without adjudicating right now as a particular terms of service decision as right or wrong? Twitter needs to deal with their terms of service enforcement in a serious and credible way. And I hope that they do, although this might be a really PR-friendly thing to do, banning political ads instead of dealing with the mess of their terms of service and more specifically their enforcement. One last thought on this. Even if you ban political ads in the formal sense where a candidate can run a paid campaign, there are still ways around this. Candidates or issue-based organizations or PACs, they can still pay for retweets and tweets. There are a whole bunch of ways that you can still effectively buy reach on Twitter, even if it is strictly speaking banned. That is a bigger conversation, and we'll see if ultimately Twitter comments about that.